Good morning and welcome to the San Francisco Interfaith Council's online briefing for faith leaders. Today's program examines how San Francisco is providing for the needs of aging adults, veterans, and people with disabilities. A special thanks. The San Francisco Interfaith Council online briefings are supported by a grant from MetaFund. The important ongoing work of the San Francisco Interfaith Council would not be possible without generous funding from congregations, corporations, faith-based social service agencies, foundations, judicatories, and supporters like you. Help us spread the word. Visit sfinterfaithcouncil.org to learn about SFIC programming and how to become a supporter. Follow SFIC on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to SFIC's YouTube channel to watch all of our virtual events. A bit of housekeeping. Today's program is being recorded. For audio and video, all participants are muted and without video to minimize distraction. To submit a question or comment, select the chat button at the bottom of your screen and send a message to Q&A. To activate closed captions, select the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen and click Enable live transcriptions. San Francisco and surrounding counties are requiring masking in indoor public places for everyone as a precaution against the circulation of COVID-19. This includes settings like houses of worship, grocery or retail stores, theaters, and family entertainment centers. Anyone 12 and older will need to show proof of vaccination to go indoors in some places in San Francisco, like restaurants and bars, gyms and clubs, large indoor events, and any business or event serving food or drinks indoors. To find your vaccination record, go to myvaccinerecord.cdph.cd.gov. .ca.gov. Get vaccinated, San Francisco. The vaccines are safe and effective. Go to sf.gov/get vaccinated to find a vaccine site in your neighborhood. Now is the time to come together, San Francisco, because together we can stop Asian discrimination, bias, hate, and violence. The COVID virus has no race or nationality. It is simply a disease. To report a hate crime, call the SFPD at 415-553-1133. And at this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to the Executive Director of the San Francisco Interfaith Council, Michael Pappas. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Trey. Good morning. I'm Michael Pappas, and on behalf of the San Francisco Interfaith Council, I want to welcome you to this week's online briefing for faith leaders. Communities of faith are hubs for aging adults. They are places where aging adults feel safe, valued, and may avoid social isolation. It's expected that by the year 2030, that 30% of San Franciscans will be aging adults. This stark estimate gives pause to consider what provisions our city is taking to meet the needs of this growing population. The San Francisco Department of Disabilities and Aging Services, housed in the San Francisco Human Services Agency, is charged with coordinating services for older adults, veterans, people with disabilities, and their families to maximize their safety, health, and independence. The San Francisco Interfaith Council collaborates with the Department of Aging and Adult Disabilities and Aging Services to ensure that faith leaders are aware of these services, assist faith leaders in gaining access to these services, and sensitizes DOS to the needs of this vulnerable sector. This week's online briefing for faith leaders, hosted by the San Francisco Interfaith Council, welcomes newly appointed DOS Director Kelly Dearman, who will present on the mission and programs of the department, as well as offer her vision for its work moving forward. And now it gives me great pleasure, and it's a privilege, to introduce Rita Simo, the founder and past chair of the San Francisco Interfaith Council and a commissioner on the Human Services Agency, as well as the Commission's IHSS, In-Home Supportive Services liaison from the Commission. Rita, welcome. I know that you are a dear friend of our presenter today, so that gives added bonus to our program today. Would you begin us with a welcome and the reading of the interfaith statement?
Thank you, Michael, and welcome to everybody, and particularly to Kelly Dearman. This is an interfaith community. Whatever our individual belief, it can be freely expressed here with no apologies. If we are invited to offer a prayer in this setting, it should be offered according to the tradition with which we identify. If we are invited to speak on a subject from the perspective of our tradition, we are free to do so without fear of offending those who come from another tradition. We come together as people of faith to learn from each other, that we may better understand the multiplicity of faith traditions in our city and in our world. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Rita. And now we welcome the Venerable Canon Nina Pickrell, Archdeacon of the Diocese of California, owner and operator of the Bayview Mission. But for the purposes of the San Francisco Interfaith Council, we are very blessed to call Nina our reservist. It's a program of the Community Living Campaign, which welcomes seniors back into the workforce. And Nina has been our coordinator of aging services and has worked very closely with us as well as with a number of our panelists today. Nina, thank you for being with us, and we invite you to ground us spiritually.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Rita. I feel very privileged to be with you all this morning. I decided to sit outside for a time of prayer and reflection, reminding us of God's creation in nature and in one another. So at this time, I invite you to be with one another in prayer this morning. I like to start prayer with a moment to center myself, and I offer that to you, and to take a deep, deep breath and exhale slowly. God, we give thanks to Mayor London Breed for appointing our newly appointed Director of the San Francisco Department of Disabilities and Aging Services, Kelly Dearman. We also give thanks for the former Director, Shireen McSpadden, for her outstanding work and leadership. May we continue to thrive and assist, strengthen relationships, including our seniors, veterans, people with disabilities on their life's journey. May we meet their challenges with professional care, insight, compassion, and kindness. May we hold thoughts for their caregivers, many of those caregivers being family members. Let us remain challenged and focus on answers and solutions for our disabled seniors and veterans living on our streets, RVs, SROs, as well as in hospitals and facilities where many have been forgotten. Please take a deep breath and exhale slowly. I give thanks for each and every one of you and who we all are together. Thank you.
Amen. And we give thanks for you, Nina, and continue your inspired and godly work. It is a great privilege to introduce a colleague and a friend who has just recently been appointed as the Director of the Department of Disabilities and Aging Services. I have to apologize because in the opening statement, I said Department of Aging and Adult Services, which was the former iteration, and I served as a commissioner on that at that time. And in that capacity, I had the opportunity to work with Kelly because I was the liaison to the in-home supportive services program that she ran. And Kelly was an inspired choice by the mayor for this position. And I know that the transition from Shireen to Kelly has been seamless and has been a blessing for the city. Kelly, we welcome you. Share with us your work and your vision.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you to all of you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. And Nina, I so appreciate your grounding us. That was really wonderful. And Rita, it is always fantastic to see you. And I'm sorry that we don't see each other more. So as everyone has said, I have been here for 4 months and I am still getting my feet wet. And as I keep saying, some days I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose as I'm trying to figure it all out. And in addition, I'm doing a lot of speed dating, which I'm trying to get to know everyone. But it has been, so far, it has been really great. And you all are right that having to follow Shireen has been nothing but spectacular. And I will also say that I have an amazing commission. I have an amazing staff, and we are all working hard together to make sure that we continue to do what is right for our aging adults, our veterans, and our people with disabilities. So I am honored to be here today, honored to be in this position, and grateful to the mayor for giving me this opportunity. So next slide, please. So what I'm going to talk about first is a little bit about our department, just to level set everyone. Okay, next slide. So as you can see, our vision is a city where people with disability and older adults are valued, engaged, and living with dignity. We work on our vision every day through our mission and our values. I find our values to be really compelling: compassion, accountability, inclusion, equity, and innovation. And as for our mission, as you can see, we support the well-being, safety, and independence of adults with disabilities, older people, and veterans. Next slide. So in terms of who we are, we have a budget of a little over 400, well, a lot over 400 million. We have 372 employees, and we work with 62 community-based organizations, that's many of you, and who do some really hard work making sure we are providing the proper services to those we serve. Next slide. So what I thought I would do is talk a little bit about what we did during the pandemic, and then tell you a little bit about moving ahead. And as you all know, I wasn't here. I've been here for 4 months, so at the tail. So even though the pandemic isn't totally over, I was not here during the height of the pandemic. I can tell you a little bit about what we did here at DOS. So first, it was really important to leverage and transition existing services. When the pandemic arrived in San Francisco, our staff and community partners responded dynamically to sustain and expand support for thousands of older and disabled adults. Many of our providers successfully pivoted to online services, offering educational and recreational activities in a virtual setting. Two particularly successful programs are the Always Active Physical Fitness Program and the senior choirs that began meeting to sing over Zoom. The Community Connector programs have developed user-friendly online calendars of events and instituted weekly walk and wave tours to say hello to members around the neighborhood. Additionally, the County Veterans Service Office launched a new online tool for booking appointments, making it easier for clients to schedule meetings with the staff, reducing wait times for in-person assistance, and generally improving the customer experience. So the coronavirus also exacerbated existing food insecurity. We helped our partners bolster existing programs and develop new resources to safely and effectively meet growing food needs in this new environment. In particular, our congregate meal program made some major transitions. Pre-pandemic, they distributed about 80,000 meals per month at sit-down breakfast and lunch seatings. When shelter in place began, they rapidly modified operations to provide meals to go. We helped them to purchase new freezers and gave funds to purchase other needed supplies. Depending on their capacity and community needs, some continued daily hot meal distributions, while others shifted to offering multiple days' worth of packages of chilled or frozen meals. Service levels in this program remained 36% higher than our pre-pandemic levels. In fiscal year 2021, they distributed an additional 340,000 meals compared to fiscal year 18-19. Collectively, DOS staff and community partners conducted approximately 30,000 wellness calls as part of the emergency response to the outbreak. We prioritize current clients at highest risk, such as those 80 years or older, living alone, and/or with significant personal care needs. Staff made calls to ensure people were aware of public health directives, such as shelter in place. We wanted to make sure their essential needs are being met and that they knew the DOS Benefits and Resource Hub was available to provide information and other support if needed. We also hosted webinars for community partners. Early in the pandemic, we focused on sharing information related to COVID-19 with our community partners. In particular, we partnered with the Family Caregiver Alliance to host a series of webinars to support friend and family caregivers providing care for their loved ones during the pandemic. Over 200 individuals participated in these webinars in the early weeks of the pandemic. So in the spring of 2020, we moved all of our general trainings online. And because the capacity of the virtual classroom is much larger than any conference room, we were able to offer all trainings to DOS staff, as well as our community partners, advisory committees, other HSA programs, and staff from other city departments, including DPH. Last year, we held 20 trainings for 1,405 attendees and averaged just over 70 attendees per training. The pandemic forced us to pivot into the world of virtual trainings, and really it ended up being a huge success. Next slide, please. One of the other things that happened during the pandemic was that we developed new partnerships and services. Great Plates Delivered was a temporary program created as part of the state's emergency response. Through this program, we partnered with local restaurants and meal preparers to prepare and deliver meals throughout the city. This program ran from May 2020 to July 2021. In that time, we served almost 3 million meals to almost 4,000 seniors. In addition to supporting seniors to shelter in place, this program offered economic stimulus to businesses. Most of the restaurants and vendors in our local program were small businesses that are minority owned. This program put over $50 million into our local economy. Most of this cost was reimbursed by FEMA. In the early days of the pandemic, we partnered with the Shanty Project to develop a program to help older people and adults with disabilities meet their basic needs while sheltering in place. This was the COVID-19 Emergency Response Volunteer Program, SERVE, which has served hundreds of older people and adults with disabilities. This program leveraged a volunteer network to help, to help with a variety of one-time or short-term tasks, such as grocery shopping and delivery of meals and medication. Another program was the CHI Specialized Care Team. To support resident stability at the alternative housing sites our agency established through COVID Command, we developed a specialized care team to help stabilize guests in alternate housing sites. This was a multidisciplinary team made up of DOS social workers and community partners to meet the needs of at-risk older and disabled guests residing at HSA's COVID-19 alternative housing sites. Many of these residents were homeless prior to placement at these locations. We offered wellness checks, home care assessments, emergency and ongoing home care support, intensive case management, and investigation of and response to allegations of abuse, neglect, and self-neglect. Additionally, following a number of high-profile incidents involving violence against Asian and Pacific Islanders, particularly older individuals during the pandemic, we implemented new strategies to keep these residents safe. In partnership with the Mayor's Office, we're supporting the senior escort services in Chinatown, offering older adults the added security of having someone accompany them to medical and personal appointments, like going to the bank or picking up groceries. So far since May, I think we've done over 1,000 through self-help for the elderly. They've done over 1,000 walks or escorts, and they've helped over 600 unique users. So it's a program that is growing, and now they're starting walking groups. It's pretty amazing. DOS also established the Solidarity SF Network through our Elder Abuse Prevention Program, bringing together city agencies, community-based organizations, businesses, and other stakeholders to address targeted harassment and violence against our API residents and other members of our San Francisco community. Through our online virtual trainings, we also offered a series in response to an increase in street harassment and violence, including one entitled Facing AAPI Race-Based Harassment for AAPI Identified and Presenting Staff. These classes taught participants how to recognize unsafe situations, verbal skills, bystander intervention strategies, boundary setting, and other skills. Lastly, DOS has played a significant role in promoting access to the vaccine among San Francisco's older adults, adults with disabilities, caregivers, and veterans. We've supported citywide vaccine outreach and coordination efforts at the COVID-19 Command Center, ensuring that seniors and disabled adults living not only in the community, but also in assisted living facilities and institutional settings could get vaccinated. Our in-home supportive services program disseminated information, scheduled vaccination appointments, and staffed vaccination sites to encourage vaccination among more than 24,000 care recipients and 23,000 independent providers. So a lot happened, has been happening during this whole outbreak, and it's amazing to me how hard our staff worked and our community partners worked, and to bring forth all these innovative ideas and just made them happen quickly. So here are our priorities looking ahead. People who participate in our services typically describe many positive experiences engaging with DOS and other supportive services. However, an ongoing challenge is lack of awareness of available resources and how to access them. In a recent community research project, we hosted focus groups and interviews with nearly 170 people from different racial and ethnic communities in the city. Across all of these, one of the most common and pressing challenges was gaps in information about available resources. People shared that they typically learned about them by word of mouth from family, friends, neighbors, and other trusted voices in the community, such as local service providers, healthcare providers, and cultural media sources. And faith leaders are, of course, another important source of information and support. We need to better position ourselves to connect with these trusted touch points so that people can be connected with help through whatever door they walk in. Secondly, our connection to and competence with the disability community. Most of our services are focused on serving older adults, which is a much larger population. But this also represents the legacy of aging services and the fragmented nature of disability services across systems. We have opportunities in a progressive city like San Francisco that puts its money behind its values. In thinking about our work on disability, I think about the services that we offer and opportunities to expand or develop new resources, improving disability competence among our staff and community partners. We have wonderful training curriculums, and we'll be delving more into this area. And we also have opportunities to facilitate connections across systems. There are many other agencies and systems that work with people with disabilities. We each bring a different lens, but support the same people. We can maximize our impact by working together. And then another priority for me is promoting inclusion of older adults and people with disabilities. As the city reopens, we need to make sure that older people and adults with disabilities are not being left behind. For example, we have these beautiful new parklets for dining and socializing, spaces that bring people out into the community. At the same time, we need to ensure that these new features do not preclude seniors and people with disabilities from navigating the city and participating fully in our reopened society. One way in particular that we can promote inclusion is through facilitating intergenerational interactions and relationships. So this holds personal meaning for me. As some of you probably know, I have for the last 11 years, along with my husband and my 2 children, we live in the same house with my parents. My parents, who are now 85 and 90. I have to say, raising my children in the same home as my parents has led to countless invaluable conversations and experiences for them. It gives an opportunity for my children not to be afraid of the aging process or the circle of life. And it gives my parents an opportunity to see the next generation grow up. So through these types of experiences, we can all get ahead of ageism. We can help people be less afraid of getting older. And this can even help in the workplace context. So I also worry that stories from our older generation, stories that are our history, are getting lost. And so I am all in for more intergenerational programming and how we can do more of that. Not just the young kids and older adults, but I'm looking at teenagers, I'm looking at folks in college. I just think it's an amazing thing. And if I can just share one more story, just before the pandemic so you have no sense of time. What was that, 2020, in February during Black History Month, my dad and I went to one of the elementary schools here where the idea was that we would read stories, read books to some of the kids. Well, my dad has trouble with his eyes, so he's not able to read. So in a class of 2nd graders, for about an hour, he just sat and told stories about his life. And the kids were like fascinated because it was things that they had never heard. And at the end, it was time to go. And he said, "Does anybody have any questions?" And this one child raised their hand and said, "Will you be back after lunch?" So anyway, I think it is fantastic. And that's what we just need to do more of that. Okay, next slide, please. Lastly, I just want to tell you, I have more of those. Yeah, tell you about the projects that we're going to be working on. These are a handful of select projects we'll be working on in the year ahead. We recently released an action plan for the year that outlines many more that will be posted online and can be shared if you all are interested, and I'll make sure you all get it. One, we're going to conduct the Dignity Fund Community Needs Assessment. We're completing a citywide community needs assessment this year. This project will support our allocation of funding from the Dignity Fund, a special set aside for seniors and people with disabilities. We'll be hosting a series of community discussions and focus groups, as well as putting out a survey. My team will be following up with you in the next couple months on this. We're really hopeful that you will get the word out about this project and also get your input in. Our DOS Benefits and Resources Hub manages outreach for our department. This year, they'll be working with a consultant through the city's Civic Bridge program to develop an outreach and community engagement plan. This will help us elevate our framework for reaching people where they are and leveraging touch points in the community. Another way we're working to address information gaps and promote access to services is through an upcoming online resource directory. So we have researched best practices and developed plans for this project. And this year, yay, finally, we will be procuring a contractor to build this tool. We're also very excited this year to be moving forward with hiring a vendor for the Disability Cultural Community Center. This is one way we are acting to address ableism and disability equity issues. This is the culmination of community dialogue and research led by San Francisco State's Longmore Institute. This center will provide information about and access to disability programs and services, as well as create space for people with disabilities to come together, advance social and disability justice, and celebrate disability culture and pride. We're super excited about this, and we're procuring a vendor for this year and hope to open within the next few years. So that is all I have right now. There is a whole many things happening over at DOS, and I'm so happy to be able to share what we did during the pandemic and what we're looking forward to. Thank you.
Kelly, it's a remarkable presentation. You have a full plate. I would be remiss if I didn't give a real shout out to your remarkable staff. They are amazing. I had the privilege of working with them, and I know that their support is going to enable you to triumph and do good for the city. This is our 62nd of these briefings, and the one thing that we've seen sort of as a consistent thread is issues of equity. And it just seemed as I was listening to you that your work is all about equity. And so we are so grateful. We have 3 community panelists that work directly with you. And so without further ado, if you'll allow me, I'd like to introduce them one by one and allow them to make some brief presentations and ask questions of you for a response, if that's okay.
That'd be great.
Wonderful. So several years ago, when the Interfaith Council started working with, at that time, the Department of Aging and Adult Services, we held a joint symposium at St. Mary's Cathedral, and it was attended by about 300 folk, and didn't realize it till afterwards, but we had what I call secret shoppers. And these were folks from the Meta Fund. Now, you've heard, those of you who are attendees here, that the Meta Fund is supporting this program, but the Meta Fund has been just a real champion and has enabled our capacity to grow our work with aging adults and people with disabilities. We are very pleased to have with us today Renee Espinoza, Director of Program Strategy at the Meta Fund. Thank you for being with us, Renee. Give our best to Janet Spear, the Executive Director, who is a member of the DOS Commission. I just want to say here, thank you for your support, because without the Meta Fund, we would not be able to be providing these programs.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you for the invitation this morning. And Kelly, thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Renee Espinoza, and as Michael said, I'm the Director of Program Strategy at MetaFund. MetaFund is a private philanthropic health foundation that is here in San Francisco. So a little bit of history of why we're here and why we work with Kelly and Michael is that in 2016, MetaFund decided to take a population approach and focus on improving health outcomes for older adults. And we did this by providing grants to nonprofit organizations that we felt utilized strategies to reduce social isolation and loneliness. And then 2 years later, in 2018, we expanded the portfolio of our focus to look at improving health outcomes for older adults and their caregiving needs. And by doing so, addressing training, economic security, and employment rights for both family caregivers and paid caregivers. And we did this all in partnership with DOS and local community-based organizations with a strategy to really focus on racial equity. And that was something that we very much appreciate in working with the Department of Disability and Aging Services. What we do know is that our current data shows that health outcomes for older adults, especially older adults of color, experience poor health due to compounding disadvantages due to racism and discrimination over a lifetime. And so at MetaFund, we seek to support those who are furthest from resources, and that's really where we focus most of our resources. Given the deep, complex, and horrific impact of COVID-19 on older adults over the last 18 to 20 months, we really turn to our grant partners, those in community, as the experts to really understand the needs of supporting older adults and providing those necessary services. And that was how we shifted our work during the last 18 months. We provided general operating rapid response funds on the onset, again, supporting the needs of our partners to shift their services primarily to remote and everything that went into making those shifts. And then earlier this year, we partnered with community organizations to support the vaccine rollout effort, really trying to understand the importance and recognizing the trust that our partners and community have to go out and provide outreach and education on the vaccine. So that's more of our recent work. And that is where Meta has shifted during COVID and what we've been up to. I do have a question for Kelly that I'd like to ask. And that is, I appreciate you sharing the projects looking ahead. And I'm wondering, and I know that you've been with the department for 4 months, but in talking to your amazing staff, if you could share one thing that will be implemented or perhaps done differently based on a lesson learned over the last year of working through COVID-19.
Oh, wow. That's a great question, Renee. Thank you so much. And like everyone else, I just want to offer my thanks to the Meta Fund for its continued support of all these super important ideas and what we're doing. So I think what we learned during the pandemic is that we can be more flexible. And in that way, I mean, it doesn't have to take forever to, to get the money out the door, to try new ideas as we did. And so I think that's the first thing, that we need to be more flexible. We learned that, and we can continue to be flexible. And I think what we have always known is the great work that our community partners do. And I think the partnerships that we built, I think what has happened through COVID is because we had to have so many of these conversations on Zoom and virtually, we were really able to talk to each other more and find out, well, what do we really need? What's really, important? The other thing that it highlighted for me, and I think all of us, is that, we all knew that isolation is like a #1 killer of older adults and people with disabilities. And I think it put a spotlight on it and let the rest of the world see. And so then it was a great opportunity for us to show up and show out, really, like this is how we are going to deal with this. And so all of those wellness check-ins, all of the walk-bys and waving hello and those phone calls, I think we're in a great opportunity now. And I think we can see that now all the way up to the federal government, that people are like, wait a minute, this is a real issue. fastest growing population, and we haven't been taking care of them. So my hope is that if there are any silver linings from this whole pandemic, it's that we have shown a light on who our consumers and clients are and what their needs are, and that we can continue to lift them up.
Thank you so much, Renee, for asking that question, and Kelly for your response, because this pandemic has been all about isolation, and we have a lot to learn from those who have experienced it over the long haul. I mean, really, I think that the mental health challenges and collateral damage of this pandemic is something that we're going to have to address, and I think that our aging adult population and their experience with this can inform us moving forward. Thank you so much. Our next community panelist is Martha Knutson, the president of the San Francisco Disability and Aging Services Commission. Martha is one of my sheroes. We had the occasion at different times to serve on the Human Rights Commission, and Martha chaired the LGBT Advisory Committee when they when they incubated the idea of a senior task force. And then during my tenure on the commission and chairmanship of that advisory committee, we hatched it. And Martha and I had the opportunity to sit on the DOS Commission together and vote on recommendations. And that was probably one of the more fulfilling parts of my civic service. Martha, it is wonderful to have you. I'm so thrilled that you're at the helm of the commission, and please share with us your experience in working with the commission and the agency.
Well, thank you so much for that very warm introduction, Michael. I am Martha Knutson, the president of the Disability and Aging Services Commission, and I had the honor of serving with Michael Pappas, who is your executive director. And I want to thank him today for inviting a commissioner of DOS to speak today. I thought it would be interesting to describe how commissions conducted our public meetings during COVID. So all the city commissions. Our commission is made up of 7 members, and I think I get a slide here, which shows what we are. Yep. 7 members from the San Francisco community. We're all appointed by the mayor to serve 4-year terms. And according to recent changes in a city charter in 2020, so very recently, at least 1 member must be a veteran and 1 member must represent the adult disabled communities. We are supposed to represent the views of the senior, adult disabled, and veterans communities as we consider for approval all contracts over about $10,000 and approve the budgets and the policy reports prepared by DOS. So it's a pretty big task. When the city shut down in March 2020, we did not hold a commission meeting in April. However, we did begin meeting in May of 2020. To comply with all the public health orders and the public meeting laws, we needed to participate remotely, yet also ensure that all staff could present items for approval and that members of the public could provide their input. The technical staff at the SFGov TV worked with all our commission secretaries and staff at DOS to produce these meetings. All the commissioners log on from their homes or offices to WebEx or participate by telephone. As president, I have conducted all of our meetings from my dining room table. So if people can envision, this is happening across the city with most of the commissions, everyone logging in, following the agenda. I call on staff to present the items and ensure commissioners and the public can participate so that all legal requirements are met before we take a public roll call and vote on the items. I am proud to tell you that we have achieved a quorum at every meeting since going online in May, and our technology has never failed us, which I'm so pleased with. I invite you to watch us the first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. on SFGov TV. Thanks to the dedication of our commissioners, we have ensured the critical business of DOS could continue. Throughout their comments, we strive to ask practical questions about the funds we approve, ensure equity and fuller accessibility through our many communities for the programs we fund. And I know that our wonderful director, Kelly Dearman has gone through the specifics of the things that we have approved. I think that all of the commissioners were just really amazed at the fact that we went from serving our community, the disabled, veterans, and aging seniors, to all of the San Francisco community. Some of the food contracts that we approved were in the tens of millions of dollars. I just want to sort of not put an exact number on it, but sort of give you a sense of what we were handling. And again, Director Dearman went through the numbers, but to be serving hundreds of thousands of people meals struck us all and just made us feel the weight of what we were contributing to. So I just wanted to mention those. And those, it was actually, even though we were all in our own places and we aren't together, I need to convey sort of the emotion that we all felt when we were doing this work and contributing to that work, and the emotion that it felt to be working with the staff to be pivoting and making this happen. It was a great honor to be able to make that contribution. As all the staff knows, I always almost make sure that we always tell any member of the community, and especially communities here, about how you can find out about our services. So again, I asked our Director Dearman to please let me do this slide. So if I could have the next slide. I think it's our phone number. Yes, here we go. So please, I know you will get this information, you will have this information, but please take advantage if anyone is asking for any services around senior, disabled, veterans. Please have them start with either our wonderful website. So I know we're going to be improving it greatly, but it's really good right now. Or just have this number handy, 415-355-6700. This is a number that if someone can call, they will start to get help on any service that might be available to them that we provide, and they are extensive. So I get finished proselytizing what we do there. And then I just have one question for our director. I think they know I am sort of an eternal optimist no matter what. And so I'd like to kind of ask a vision question, if I could, to our director. How has the COVID crisis affected your vision for the future of DOS?
That's a great question. And to be clear, I am still forming my vision, still only 4 months in, and it will likely continue to change. But first, Martha, I just want to thank you for leading the commission with such grace and honor and commitment. It is, I mean, I feel lucky every day to have not only such a great staff, but this commission who I really feel like we're in partnership together, and that's important.
Because we are.
Because, so what I will say is how it's affected my vision is similar to what I was talking about. It really highlighted for me the need for more community, the need for more intergenerational programs, the need for us to figure out how to deepen or create a bench, even deepen our bench in terms of people who will want to go into caregiving or geriatrics or social work, particularly dealing with this population, right? So we have a lot of folks who, yes, I want to be a social worker and take care of the kids, but it is not nearly as many who will say, I want to be a social worker so I can work with older adults or people with disabilities. And so for me, it's about the outreach. It's about letting everybody know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and really being this great connector. And I think that's what we're going to be working on. And COVID also showed us that as much as we think we know everything that's going on, and we think people know what we're doing, there's a lot of people out there who don't know what we're doing. So we need to continue with the outreach and really create a plan. And I think I think this resource directory is going to go a long way towards that. And then I'll just keep beating the drum about intergenerational programming.
Mhm. Yep. Thank you.
Kelly, that sounds like 2020 vision for me. I just want to say, because Kelly, you've been on both sides of the commission now as the director, but you used to attend the meetings and present at the meetings. And Martha, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and I have seen a lot of different commissions and contentious commissions. I left every commission meeting feeling inspired because of, the meetings would start by lifting up, even within the department, people who are doing great things. But the programs that we voted on funding for were inspirational. And I just, I can't say enough about it. I left inspired at these meetings, and anybody who's ever watched SFGov TV knows that that's probably an anomaly, but a blessing. So thank you. And I wanted to say to Martha that this program is being seen not only by the attendees today, but the recording link will be sent out by day's end today, and will reach our 5,000 e-subscribers. It will be downloaded on YouTube, hit Facebook and Twitter. And so the reach is going to be far, and we will include these links that you recommended. Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last but not least is a dear personal friend and a mentor, Tom Nolan, who is the faith liaison for the San Francisco Department of Disabilities and Aging Services. If the truth be told, I first met Tom when he was the president of the San Francisco Municipal Transit Agency Board of Directors. And we have stayed in touch ever since. His deep faith prompted him to really push myself and the Interfaith Council to collaborate with DOS. And it really is because of Tom that collaboration not only started, but has blossomed over the years. I'm grateful for him. And so, Tom, can you talk to us a little bit about our journey together and your vision for our work?
Sure. Thank you, Michael. I greatly value our friendship as well. I really appreciate what you've done, especially in these last months. 62 of these sessions, a lot of work involved in every one of them. They've been enormously helpful. I've attended almost all of them and always learned something and been inspired by what people are doing. So Michael and I first met when I was the chairman of the MTA board, and Michael was very pleased with what we were doing. Was that right, Michael?
Absolutely.
He had proposed the idea of charging for parking on Sundays. And it turns out, surprisingly, that faith leaders didn't care for that very much. So we had to roll that one back a bit, but we had good and dear friends for many years. And Kelly, I want to thank you for your leadership at DOS and for your obvious care and concern about those for whom we serve, and your vigorous leadership. It's going to serve everybody very well. For the past 9 years, it's been my privilege to serve as a manager of the LGBTQ programs for seniors and persons with disabilities at the agency. And also during a time to serve as a liaison to the faith community. I sort of come by that honestly because I've got a Master of Divinity degree as well. So I was said, Michael, I can speak the language. And I really enjoy, I love the in-person breakfast, of course, and all the other things, but these sessions have been extremely helpful during that time. I think the relationship between DOS and the Faith Council is very important because so many of our people are the same. So many of the seniors and persons with disabilities that we serve seek fellowship, comfort, worship, and information through their faith communities. And your programs have helped an awful lot to educate the faith leaders about services that are available. And you mentioned the conference we had in 2016 in St. Mary's Cathedral, and I was part of that. And I think it's a very important thing. And the themes are twofold. One is to have faith leaders understand what DOS and community organizations have to offer, number one. And number two, for us to see what I refer to as the view from the pulpit. What is going on in the congregation? What are you seeing? And that's a very dynamic relationship, it seems to me. So out of this came a couple of things. And one is I'm so pleased the interactive resource directory is underway. The DOS is working very hard on that. That was cited as a big need. what was supposed to be provided not only by DOS, but by the other service agencies in the city. It would be so convenient if we go to just one place to find that out. Also, we had a community roundtable, and we were just starting those when COVID hit. So we just had one of those, but it was very productive. We had faith leaders from a wide variety of backgrounds there. And we also talked about creating a toolkit for faith leaders about what's available for congregations. Now, the resource guide may well take care of that need, but that was another project we had. And so we also met a number of times, leaders of the Faith Council and DOS, and through your relationship with the faith-based social service agencies, like Catholic Charities and Jewish Community Services, all of that. We're part of that and very proud of that as well. Since that time, Valerie Coleman on our staff has presented at one of your breakfast meetings about the work for an age and disability-friendly city. I think it's very exciting, very important work going on there. And in addition, Shireen McSpadden and I both gave faith journeys. To me, that was an important personal experience for me to be able to share that with your community. I've always enjoyed those in your various meetings. Madam Director, I guess the only question I'd ask to you is, given our mutual history and long and rich history, do you have any thoughts on the future of this relationship going forward?
Well, yes, I do. And thank you, Tom. I appreciate your comments and so glad that you are part of the team over at DOS. So yes, our future is bright. We are going to continue to work together, and I so appreciate this opportunity right here to speak to you all, but want to encourage you. I am very happy to have one-on-ones with any of you who are interested, so I can find out what you're doing and making sure we're all working together. And you all, I'm sure, ideas come from many places, and so whatever ideas you have, I would love to hear. I also believe that it's in our faith-based community that that's where our population goes for community and for worship, and so we have to work together to make sure we are meeting the needs. We are meeting their needs, and because that's where we know we all go. So I am looking for a long and continued partnership.
I will tell you, Kelly, in a previous iteration in life, I served as the pastor of 2 parishes and an associate at another. And without our seniors, we could not run those parishes. I mean, they brought just lifetimes of experience, just passion and commitment. And on that note, just the connective tissue here, when Tom and I sat down with Shireen, I said, from a capacity standpoint, because the council only has a staff of 2, we're going to need some help. And it was at that point that we were introduced to the Community Living Campaign's reservist program.
Nice.
And that's how we brought Nina on board, and we're able to really juggle and do our work together with you all. And I will tell you, because of that experience, I've helped other reservists get jobs in the city too. And I would say to our clergy that this is an amazing program, the reservist program of the Community Living Campaign. My friend Jamie Goddard is on the line now, so I'm sure she's thrilled to hear this. And Marie Jobling is another one of my sheroes from the Community Living Campaign. So please allow me to take the liberty of that shout out. Okay. This has been a pretty remarkable program, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to share it by day's end with our broader community. I want to say a very, very special thank you to Kelly for taking this precious time and sharing with us, and know that we are here to be of support to you, and we consider ourselves collaborators and partners. To Renee and Martha and Tom, thank you. Our connective tissue is really valued by the council, and we will continue to build on that commitment moving forward so that we can be of support to Kelly and DOS. I would be remiss if I did not say a special thank you to Cynthia Zambucas, the Program Administrative Associate at the San Francisco Interfaith Council, who is responsible for all the communications you're getting on a constant basis and has just done amazing work, as well as Trey Russell Allen, who is our tech consultant and has enabled us to be able to communicate with you all. Next week, we will take a brief hiatus from the regular programming, but you will be receiving some information on a special interfaith service that will take place at St. Ignatius Parish for Fleet Week. It will be an interfaith Fleet Week service. You can experience it both virtually as well as in person. The next in this series, number 63, will take place on October 14th. And because October is International Earthquake Shakeout Month, we will have with us Adrian Bocelli, who is the Deputy Director of the Department of Emergency Management, to talk about earthquake preparedness in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. That brings to a close today of this program. We thank you for being with us, and God bless you.
Good, Michael.